So today I'm going to show you how I created this image. It originally looked like this, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of interest. The horses are dark, the riders are dark. There's just not, they're a focal point, but it's just not very interesting. It ended up looking like this after I was finished. You can clearly see the horses and all the detail. They're much sharper. There's much more color. It's just a much more interesting image. So what I did, so we're in the Develop tab of Lightroom. So the first thing I did was brighten it up just a little bit. So I brought the exposure up just a quarter of a stop to 0.2. Okay, you see it brought everything up a little brighter. This is still really pretty blown out. So in order to deal with the blown outness, I brought this down the highlights. See how it's if I bring the highlights way up, it makes the whites real bright. Way down, it kind of recovers some detail. So I brought this down to 70. I can't seem to get it to do that again, so we're going to say 69. And I brought the shadows up because, so down in here where it's all dark, it's still pretty dark. So I'm going to bring the shadows up also to about 70, so let's say 69. But now it's kind of, everything is flattish. So I'm going to increase the contrast just a little bit to 7, okay? And there's some color in here, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to increase the vibrance here to 71. So see if I go down here, it's almost black and white. I'm going to bring that up to 71. So you get some greens over here. There's some kind of reddish purples in the trees. The reds on her tack is much brighter. The blues, just everything's a little bit brighter. But still not colorful enough for me. So I'm going to bring the kind of more warmer colors up with saturation by bringing that up to 26. Okay, actually, well, I guess we'll do 27. And I'm also going to increase the clarity just a smidge up to 7, okay? Now, I know that there's some blue sky in here, but you can't really see it. So the first thing I do is come down here to the Color tab, and I'm going to increase the saturation to 28. So see how that made this a little bit brighter. But I'm going to decrease the luminance, so I'm going to make the blues darker also by 28. Okay. And it's sharp, but not super sharp, okay? So what I'm going to do is increase the sharpening down here to, I brought it up to 52. So see how it's a little bit sharper, and definitely from further back it looks sharper, okay? And I'm also going to give it a bit of a vignette, just a little bit, so down to 20. Okay, so see now, we're getting close. So this is the new image. Okay, this is my final version. So you'll notice that there's still not as much detail. I'm missing the orange that's over here. This is darker. This has some more detail. The horses have more detail. So what I did to get that, so the first thing I did was I went and I used my darkened sky gradient that I've used for a while, which as you can see is lowers the exposure, lowers the shadows, increases the clarity, and adds just a little bit of blue. Okay, so I'm going to do that. But that's a little dark over there, so I'm actually going to bring the exposure back up. Okay, because I don't think that really needs, it doesn't need to be darker so much, it just needs to be bluer. But I am going to bring the shadows down a little bit and maybe increase that blue just a little bit. Okay. This feels really too bright. It's a little unbalanced. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take my shadows gradient that I've made, which as you can see just decreases the exposure just a little bit. It adds in a little bit of a purple color. Okay, and I'm just going to do this a little bit like this. See how it darkens it just a little bit, adds a little bit of detail, and takes your eye away from it. Now your eye is more focused here. Okay, so then the sun was coming from over here, and I feel like this image is a very cool colored image. We've got some oranges in here and in here and in here that I really kind of want to emphasize without bringing them up too much more. So I'm going to use this gradient that I made that's I call sunshine, that just increases the exposure ever so slightly, and it's got kind of an orangey yellow color, and I'm going to come in like this. Okay, so it gives it kind of like they're kind of riding into the sunset-ish kind of feel. Let me see, yep, okay. And, okay, so we've got that. So see how that, even though the orange is over here, it brings out the orange in the riders and in the horses. So the next step I'm going to use my brush that I call focus here. Okay, so as you can see, I actually have several kind of versions of sharpness. I've got sharp, sharpest, soft, sharp, and then focus here. Now my focus here brush is one I use all the time, because it does a few things to draw the eye's focus. It adds sharpness, it adds a little bit of clarity, and it adds a slight amount of increased exposure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that brush over everything that I want people to pay attention to. And see how it just looks more, it just draws your eye more. It's sharper, it's crisper, it's just, I don't know how to describe it other than more focused. Okay, so it just makes those areas look a lot better. So I'm kind of going to do the horse and the riders with my focus here brush. Okay, and I'm going to check and make sure, yeah, I didn't really miss much of anything. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do is see down here, there's this wonderful snow, and I am going to make that stand out a little bit more by increasing the clarity around those areas. So see how the snow droplets stand out now, and it also makes the horse's legs a little bit darker, which is kind of a little bit nice. So that stands out a little bit more now. So I think we are finished. So I did a little bit more around the edges with them, I guess, in this one. But see, this is virtually the same image now. So that's how I did that image. So again, if you want to see what this used to look like, it used to look like this. So in just a few minutes, I've taken it from this image, which is nice compositionally, but is not particularly interesting otherwise, and turned it into this. So I hope that was helpful in understanding my process. Thanks for listening.